This episode of From Angel to Exit is brought to you by the CEO's Right Hand. The CEO's Right Hand provides customized outsourced finance, accounting, and human resource services tailored to small and medium-sized businesses. Their services include fractional CFO, HR support, capital raising, and financial infrastructure development. They emphasize personalized engagements and expert support to drive growth and operational efficiencies. If you want to find out more, visit theceosrighthand.co. Are you serious about planning a successful business exit? From Angel to Exit is your go-to resource. Subscribe to our newsletter at eckfeldt.com/podcast for even more valuable insights. And to get personalized guidance, take our free exit readiness assessment. It's just 24 questions, and it will give you a clear picture of your exit readiness. Find the assessment at eckfeldt.com/exit. Submit your results, and we'll schedule a free follow-up call to discuss your specific situation and the best way to maximize your valuation and ensure a successful transaction. Now, back to the episode. Welcome, everyone. This is From Angel to Exit. I'm Bruce Eckfeldt. I'm your host. Our guest today is Leslie Adams. Leslie has been involved in a couple different companies. We're going to talk about her experience with Federal Metals, which was originally a family business, which she was able to grow and scale and then ultimately exit. We're going to hear about all those stories. And then she's got some interesting work with a new company called At Work of Heart. We're going to find out how that's been kind of the next stage of her entrepreneurial journey and what she's learned after her experience with Federal Metals and applying this. I always like these stories of people having successful exits and then doing something else and really kind of learning or finding out what they've learned and what they've applied to the next phase of their professional career and their entrepreneurial career. So with all that, Leslie, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Bruce.
Yeah,
I'm excited
it's a pleasure.
to be here.
So why don't we kind of get a little bit of background? I always love kind of hearing the stories and how you kind of get into this. In this case, family business. I would love to hear a little bit about kind of the background of the business and then how you got involved. What was that like? And then talk a little bit about your role as CEO and then having scaled and exited.
Sounds great. So Federal Metals was started in 1950 by my grandfather. So I am third generation. He started it in the local Calgary area and grew it from there. My parents took over in 1975, the year I was born. And then I ended up buying it from them in 2008 with my, at the time, husband. So he was my partner. Yeah.
Nice.
Federal Metals is a really interesting company in that
Tell me.
I was so fortunate to be able to buy a company that had such a strong foundation in it. It was run really well. And so I was able to take this beautiful package and kind of step it forward. Federal Metals is a scrapyard. So, I'm a scrap dealer, recycled metal. We became, our image kind of changed from scrap dealer, junk dealer to recycling industry. It was awesome. But when I bought it, it kind of switched over to that. So we buy scrap metal from peddlers, which are people that come across the scale. They bring stuff into the yard. But we also have a larger side of the business where we place bins in various locations, companies that have larger amounts of scrap, and we pay them for what it is that they give us. We also had a new steel yard, so we sold new steel as well. So it was kind of neat because we dealt with the end of life and the beginning of life of metal. So it was the full circle there.
Yeah, for those people that don't know, I mean, I just know tangentially a little bit about this, is you need recycled steel to be able to create new steel in some capacity. Like what is the life cycle of, like, what are you buying, why are you buying it, what do you do to it, and how does it turn into new steel? It's just a little bit of the business model.
Absolutely. So we buy ferrous and non-ferrous, which means magnetic, non-magnetic. The great thing about our industry is that we take end of life. So, for example, a company that's making window frames and has scrap pieces, like leftover pieces they can't do anything with, they sell it to us. And then we process it and send it out to mills, and then they reform it into new window frames. That's just one example of steel. There's a new billets made of iron. It just depends, the copper. So what we're doing is we're diverting from the landfill, and we're also reducing the amount of mining that has to take place because we are using steel that's already in the life cycle of things.
Yeah. And I'm kind of curious, like, how has that market evolved over time? Like when the business started back in 1950, like, were there lots of these? Like, what were the structure of the industry, and how have things changed up until the point that you bought it?
Right. That's a really good question, actually. There's been a lot of change in that business. So, for example, when my grandpa started it, he would go out to farms and he would pick up old farm equipment. It was mostly that. It was originally called Federal Metals Tractor. I can't tractor something. He'd go out and get this old stuff.
Yeah.
And people would actually pay him to come out and get their stuff. Even in the city with some companies, they'd pay him to come and pick up their garbage, their junk kind of thing. So he'd go and get that. And then, he'd package it and get it ready for shipment out to the mills. And then when my parents took it over, they at the end of my grandpa's career, when my parents took over, you started having to pay for it, to buy it from people. But you could buy it for very little. There was a huge margin that they worked on, and there weren't many scrapyards. I think when my grandpa started, there was one, and then there were three. He and a fellow scrap gentlemen started at the same time, so there were three. And then when my dad came into it, there were four. So there weren't that many. There wasn't a lot of competition, and again, theirs was based on margin. By the time I got into it, there were seven in the city. I believe it was seven, which is quite a lot considering you're not used to that. And it went from a margin-based business where you paid very little and sold for quite a bit. We ended up having to switch to a volume-based business program, or whatever the heck it's called. Sorry, lost for words there, but a business model. So we had to end up getting much more quantity and paying much less. So we worked on a really tight margin, a lot of quantity.
Yeah. So I'm curious, given a family business, was this front and center in your childhood, and you knew someday you would take over the family business? I guess how did being in a family business kind of affect you when you were young in terms of your association with it and what role you were going to have, and then how did that lead up to actually taking it over? I'm curious what your mindset was and what the plan was.
Right. So Federal Metals was almost just like another sibling, another part of the family. We literally grew up there. It was work. It was all work. We went down there all the time with my parents. It was always work. We'd have the guys out on the weekend. We had a farm and my dad would have them out there. It was just like a big family. And so for me, I actually have an older brother. So it was never meant for me to be in the business. I was always kind of, you just stand there and you just look pretty and this business isn't for you. So that's kind of how I grew up with it. It was supposed to be my brother's, but one thing led to another, and my parents ended up having to sell, and I actually ended up in the business anyway. For various reasons, I ended up in the business, and my dad had to sell, and so mom and dad had to sell, and so I was there, and I bought it from them. I learned organically too. I'm not formally trained in business. I didn't go to business school, so you just kind of grow up in the business, and it just becomes part of you.
Yeah. So I'm curious just on the nature of the deal, because it was actually, we're talking about a double transaction. You were involved in a transaction, then actually exited as well. What was I guess, was that a smooth process? Was it complicated? How did you handle kind of the finances? I'm curious with these generations taking over, how did you kind of structure the deal to make it work both for you and for your parents? I know, because a lot of times you're buying or selling to a somewhat unknown third party. You can kind of hammer the deal I'm going to get the best deal possible, but in this case you're negotiating with family.
Right.
How do you navigate those dynamics when you're dealing with a transaction like that?
Right, because it's family, absolutely. Well, they put forth a very fair deal. So obviously, I didn't have the money at the time to just give them a lump sum. So I was able to buy gradually. I had a 7-year contract with them to buy them out, and I was able to use the profits of the company to do so.
Yeah.
So and they set it up in a way that was payments. We had contracts, we had legal contracts. I couldn't miss a payment, stuff like that. So so does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it does. The other piece of that too is how, when you've got parents that have owned and run a company for a long time, and then you're taking it over, right? How did decision making and control and involvement, what were all the dynamics around that in terms of who calls the shots now that we've got different owners?
That was a really challenging situation. So I was a little bit caught in the middle between my business partner and my parents
Yeah.
because my parents, great business people. Like my
Hmm.
dad is a legend in the industry, and he learned from a legend too. So it was awesome. And egos had a bit to
Mm.
play with my business partner, I
Oh
have to
yeah.
say. And, great guy. He's also a very, very good businessman. And
Uh-huh.
so I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but
Yeah.
that is kind of what happened. Like it was almost
Yeah.
like like he wanted to be the boss. My dad didn't want to give up the position, so that was
Hmm.
difficult. I was in between
Yeah.
navigating that. Um, so relationship wise, because it's a family business and they're my parents, I always maintained relationship before
Yeah.
anything else. And then
Yeah.
at the time it was my husband. So I was
Yeah.
like, oh my God,
Yeah.
I'm
Exactly.
maintaining that
You've
too.
got family all around.
Yeah, yeah, it was
Yeah.
tough. There was definitely a challenge there. Egos at play,
I'm sure.
a lot of mitigating both sides. Yeah,
Hmm.
it was so challenging.
Yeah. How
Yeah.
and when you took over the business, did you see just kind of continuing to run it as it was? Were there big changes you wanted to make? I mean, you mentioned the
Yeah.
kind of market changed quite a bit, right? And you had to move to much more of a volume kind of model.
Yeah.
Like, I guess how did that decision or awareness happen, and then what did you have to do in terms of implementing, changes into the business to make that effective?
Right. So, as much as I'm like saying, "Oh my gosh, my partner was all like he wanted to do all this stuff," I did too. I
Yeah.
totally did too. But
Yeah.
I wanted to wait until they were out of the business. So what we did is we put our like we just, dug in and we paid it off in 5 years. And then after
Okay.
that, we did start making changes, and they were necessary changes for the time, for sure.
Yeah.
Time changes, our competition changed, just everything changed out there. So we did. We ended up again switching to a volume-based model
Okay.
versus the other one.
Yeah. Margin
And
kind of focused.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that's right. So we did that, and that was an interesting transition with cash flow because we were a cash business. So
Okay. Yeah.
cash management is absolutely essential in our business. And fortunately, we had, I grew up with it from my parents, so I knew how to manage cash the way they were running business. But we did
Hmm.
run into a lot of tight spots with the
Yeah.
volume, trying to get paid in
Yeah.
time to pay your customers and stuff. So yeah, we had a lot of times where we had to dip into our own money to make that happen.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Float
there,
the company for a little while.
that's right. There was that. We wanted to grow the new steel, so we did that. We grew the new steel. We did end up buying new equipment. So my parents' philosophy was buy old stuff and just fix it.
Oh, okay.
And at one time that worked. It did work when machinery was built a specific way. But as soon as
Yeah.
computers and technology started coming into
Yeah.
it, it just got more and more expensive to do that. So we started buying new equipment, but strategically and one piece at a time,
Hmm.
again, maintaining our cash flow. We also had to develop a credit as well with our bank,
Hmm.
a good credit score. So it was strategic in buying new equipment that way. What else? We also we started milling copper. We wanted to take over a specific market. And steel was already, everyone was into the ferrous market.
Okay.
It was easy. You made a lot of money. You just bought the equipment, so capital intensive,
Hmm.
but there was no risk when you bought and sold, or
Yeah.
much less risk. It held its price for a lot longer. Whereas we were like, hey, no one's in this non-ferrous market. Let's get into it bigger. And so we did. And, we had a lot of ups and downs with that. We made some huge mistakes, but we also came back from it, learned a lot. And yeah, we ended up, becoming a Western Canada mill for copper. We're the first ones.
Fascinating. And I guess how much of, again, the fact that I think you said you didn't have any formal business training,
Correct.
getting into this, like how much of this was kind of school of hard knocks and just kind of trying and doing and learning versus how much did you intentionally kind of develop and polish formal business skills as part of this, kind of journey that you got on once you bought the company?
Right. So once I bought the company, it was definitely School of Hard Knocks. And that's when I decided to join business groups. And I would
Yeah.
say that was one of the most challenging things, trying to take it from a mom and pop operation to a corporation.
Yeah.
So I I joined business groups to learn from other business people in different industries,
Yeah.
and just refine myself so that I could lead the company in a really positive direction and be taken seriously. And yeah,
Yeah. That, I
yeah.
mean, groups like YPO and things like that became pretty
That's
important
right.
for
Yeah,
you.
EO,
Yeah.
YPO. Yeah, I learned a lot. I took a lot of classes. I bought a lot of books that people took just to learn
I
the
have stacks
lingo.
of books on my counter here. I'm
Right.
still buying books.
Right. Like I just had to read, and I had to, yeah, just, just so that when I was sitting in my forum groups, I could understand what they were talking about, because
Yeah.
they throw out, words and acronyms, and I was like, oh yeah, totally. And then I'd leave and be like, oh my God.
Lots of EBITDA. Lots of EBITDA everywhere. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I got some in the drawer.
Yeah, exactly. But it was really important. I'm so happy I joined those groups.
Yeah.
Although I had a difficult time integrating myself into that, because I felt very very different from everybody,
Oh,
because
interesting.
just
Why?
because of
Like,
where I came from,
okay.
tough industry, and it was so helpful, though. I found people that I could relate to, and that was something new for me, because as a business owner, I didn't have anyone that I could talk to
Yeah.
outside of my partner
Yeah.
and my parents. And so it was lovely that there were other people out there experiencing similar things, but in totally different industries.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating. I always find that, the CEOs that I work with, it's always this, like, how do I get information, feedback, perspective, where I think whether it's my own leadership style or management style, or, my business, my industry, like, this is the way we do things here, but like, how do other industries handle these things? How do we deal with talent? How do we deal with financing? How do we deal with and YPO, EO, these kind of groups are an amazing opportunity for,
Yeah.
you to just get that perspective from people who, right, don't have a dog in the fight, right? Like they're not a business partner, they're not your bank, they're not trying to, sell you services, right? They're just curious, and they want to help you and be supportive. So
Yeah.
what,
They were
what were,
awesome.
yeah,
Sorry,
what were some of the things that came
sorry.
up for you? Like as you got into this, like realizations around, things you wanted to do differently, either as a leader or as a manager around the company. Like what epiphanies did you have as part of that experience?
Um, I really learned how to set my business up for sale, to be honest. And that was the main reason that I went in there too. I
Yeah.
learned also through the changing industry, talking to the people. And there were a lot of people that, could have been my customers. They owned various businesses that had scrap metal, right? And so just to understand what was important to them as owners of the company or CEOs of the company, when they're looking for someone to deal with their scrap metal, what is it
Yeah.
that they're looking for? For example, certifications, a core certification, safety certifications. They want to know that there's a strong management team in place. All these things were new to me, and it was just eye-opening, and I really appreciated the feedback. And I got right on it too, and it was great, because I could actually bring them into my facility and show them, like, hey, take a look at this place, and what would you like to see, and what can I do to improve? And it
Yeah.
was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
What were some of the big? You mentioned you went from kind of being a local player, certainly on the, or at least on the copper side, to being, Western Canada. Like,
Yes.
what were some of the choices or decisions or steps that you made to kind of go through that growth process?
So the first choice was opening. So the scrap business is unique in the sense that it was a very tumultuous relationship between law and scrap dealers. So
Okay.
theft is a huge thing.
Oh.
Copper theft specifically.
Oh, yeah.
It's a major problem.
Yeah.
That and what is it? Anyway, so I started working with the police on that. Made a couple huge busts, and the word got out. And Carry, which is the Canadian Recycling Organization, Canadian Recycling, I can't think of it right now, but anyway, they're the organization for scrap dealers across Canada.
Okay.
So they reached out, they heard that we did all this good stuff, and they asked us to be on the board. And that was the first step in a really, a giant leap forward for us in
Yeah.
putting ourselves on the map in the scrap industry. Us as the owners, even, it was fantastic. And
Yeah.
then we had some people reach out from the government and from various electrical companies, and they formed a board called the Provincial Electrical Physical Security Working Group. So we got to sit on this board with CSIS and with massive heads of electrical companies and government and such, and police, and RCMP, and we kind of were the insiders, and we educated them on how copper comes in, what gets stolen, how it gets disguised, how it's processed, kind of.
Fascinating.
So,
Like the CIA of
kind of,
of
right?
metals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was so exciting, and like listening to them, and it was fun, and like, how to catch people in the act. It was really fascinating. So we ended up opening our scrapyard to these like law enforcement and such to come in, and we started educating them about the whole cycle of how that takes place, the
Yeah.
theft and getting rid of the material and stuff. So that was another great thing that got us out there. We just wanted to get ourselves on the map as people in the community, with the community, versus, we're the little backdoor guys that everyone can go sell their stuff to. And
Yeah.
we just wanted to make sure that our image came out spit spot, and
Yeah.
and also follow it. Like, the scrap industry didn't start out it was kind of gangster back in the day, So to bring it forward to this was unique, and it was a little bit of a challenge, but it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess when you, I guess at what point did you anticipate or make a decision or have a plan for actually exiting the business? Was this something you, like when you first took it over, you're like, okay, I'm in here for 10 years and I'm going to flip this thing and make a bunch of money? Or this was something kind of evolved over time, and you were third generation. Did you have any ambitions of handing it over to someone else in the family? Like, I'm just curious at that set of decisions.
Yeah, great question. So third generation is there's a lot of weight on your shoulders, because everyone's expecting you to mess it up, right? Or be the one to sell. And it's like, oh my God, if you sell, that's a failure. I talked to my parents about that. The industry itself changed. The players in the game changed. The West has massive scrap yards. I mean, the amount of scrap that they have to deal with is so much greater than ours. And they've slowly been making their way out West. And we had a little taste of that here and there. And I wanted to make sure that when we bought the company, that we bought with the mindset that we were going to build it to sell it. It's better to be the bright and shiny object that they look at first than to, fight the shark. I mean, it would be like fighting, oh my gosh, like we'd never, little tiny tadpole in this huge pool of sharks. It's so.
Not something you wanted to try to set yourself up for.
Exactly.
So you very intentional in the beginning that you knew that you were going to have a transaction, sell the company at some point. When you said you set it up for sale early, like what did that mean for you practically? What did it mean for you kind of energetically or emotionally? Like how did you approach this so that you were actually in a position to be able to sell the company at some point?
Right. So I did get in the company with the mindset to sell. It didn't necessarily mean that I was, necessarily on like going to sell it, like get it ready to sell. But I had that mindset, right? It's like build it. So what got me there? So will it make the boat go faster? There's I read this awesome article. You probably know about it. Will it make the boat go faster? I was super, super focused on only that, the foundational health of the company in order to move it forward. I didn't, we did not take risks that risked that at all. We didn't take big steps that would ever risk the foundation of the company. We get close sometimes. We'd be like, oh my God, okay, our boat is sinking. It's close. It's not there. Like water's starting to come over the edge. Let's take a step back. Let's just, get back to the foundation, build what we've, really reinforce what we've just built and move forward with that. I think I might have lost sight of your question there. Would you mind repeating it?
Just like what are some of the things you did to get make the business ready to sell or optimize the business for selling?
Optimize the business. Okay, yeah, gotcha. So we hired more staff. We put a management team in place, because before it was just us. So if we were gone, there was no business. So we put a management team in place. We really, got more people. Organization of the yard. I'm trying to think here. We built the new steel business. That was a huge part of it too. When scrap was slow, new steel was hopping. When new steel was slow, scrap was hopping. So we had that, both kind of balanced each other and supported each other. What else did we do? Oh, environmental. We did a lot of environmental cleanup. My dad started that, and we just continued on with that. We built copper processing for milling. Okay. So we did that. We milled copper, went out and turned ourselves into more of in that non-ferrous market. There was a lot of competition for the littler stuff. So what we did is, instead of instead of being part of that competitive environment there, we just, again, started milling the copper and started a B2B business. So we started working with the other dealers and buying the copper from them. So that took us out of that competition. We ended up getting it all anyway. It was beautiful. And it worked really well for all of us. So it was just, great for all of us. It minimized our shipping costs. We got actuals on our recovery of copper instead of just guesstimations. So everyone ended up making more at the end of the day, and the customer at the end of the day that we buy from at our yard too, because we had so much volume, we were able to give them such a better price.
Yeah. Fascinating.
And
What were some of the things that you, I guess, wish you would have done differently earlier, to help you be more prepared? I guess what did you miss, or what did you not get done that you would have liked to?
I feel like I don't feel like I was missing anything that I didn't get done. I have to say, like, I feel very, very lucky with this sale. I shouldn't say lucky. I mean, I worked for it. I stuck it out. I made some great decisions, and not just me, my business partner too. We made really good business partners in that sense. And I would say that, like, we sold it at exactly the right time, exactly the way we wanted it. It wasn't too big, so it took us out of the market. It wasn't too small that we weren't enough for someone to come buy. It just seemed to be just right, and the right time in life too. I was 40. Let me see here. I'm 49, 46 when we sold it. So still tons of life ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about the sale process itself. So, you had grown the company, you had added these other services, gotten into the non-ferrous world. Yeah. Like, at what point did you decide, okay, we're going to start looking for buyers, we're going to start this process, we're going to put together a team? I mean, tell us a little bit about what that looked like.
Sure. So I'd say about 5 years before we actually put it up for sale, we started kind of, asking questions to potential buyers. Hey, if you were going to buy us, what would you, like, hey, just for, like,
hypothetical.
Yeah, exactly. Hypothetical.
Say there was a company that was interested in selling.
That's right.
Looked kind of like this.
Yeah, exactly. So then, we took what they said seriously and we implemented it. And then,
and what kind of stuff came up? Like, what feedback were you getting?
It was management team. It was core. It was safety certificates, certifications. It was, I'd say those were the main ones, actually. Yeah, those were the main ones.
So basically things that sort of de-risk the business, kind of make sure that things are kind of run professionally and make it easier to actually do the purchase itself.
Yeah. And it was, to be honest, it's pretty new for all of us in the industry. Like, we were like the Wild West. We just did what we wanted. Like, and no one seemed to, it was all good. Yeah. Like, it just seemed to be fine.
Sure,
just
why
like,
not?
Yeah, no one cared. But then things started to change. So, I mean, the companies that we'd buy from, they started to have regulations that they had to, deal with companies that had these specific certifications. So we had to step up and do that for sure.
Yeah.
And then also, what was it? Social give back.
Oh,
I think they were looking for companies that also, gave back. And to be honest, we gave back a lot in the sense that we, with our customers, giving some of them deals and letting them borrow money and really good with our, but not in the bigger picture of things. Yeah. So in the
community reinvestment and stuff like that.
That's right. Yeah.
And did you run a big deal process and tender, dozens of bids and, lots of LOIs and big due diligence and stuff like that? How did the actual, creating the market for the company and finding potential buyers, like what was that process like?
Right. So at first we were trying to decide whether or not we should go with a broker or not go with a broker.
Yeah.
I heard a lot from a lot of people were advising me, go with a broker. They're so important. They know all the details. Yep. And I get why they said that. I do understand that. But our industry is a little bit different. And we had pegged people that we wanted to buy us. Yeah. And they were already scrapyards. So it would be a clean deal. And, as clean as it can be. And they knew what they were doing, kind of thing. So we did have LOIs. We did have.
So how many sort of suitors did you entertain?
We entertained 3. We entertained 3. Yeah.
And there were 3 local. They were local, or where were they geographically located?
Actually, they weren't local. One was from the States. One was from from Montreal, and Saskatchewan. And so the same company, Montreal, Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
And the other one was from, Edmonton. Yeah. So
Okay.
we put it out there. I think the most difficult thing was trying to keep it a secret
Well,
from
yeah,
anyone else, right?
a
Like our
lot of
customers.
times,
Yeah,
yeah, the brokers, I find, the brokers, investment bankers, the benefit of having them is one is they can sort of make the market if it's not clear who's going to be the potential buyer, or it's
that's
a
right.
very disrupted or very complicated industry. And two is they can help kind of manage the process, and they can create a little bit of a buffer with the leadership team and with the industry, so that
That's right.
you're not just kind of putting yourself out there, and it's very exposing to put yourself on the market and have all this
Yeah.
data and everything out there.
Yeah. It
So
is.
so
Yeah.
you identified these players. I mean, I'm assuming you had relationships with them at some level already because they're players in the industry.
Yeah, and we all have really tight
Yeah.
relationships when we're not in the same city. So really, really good close relationships, and we had dealt with them before. I mean, we had lots of family history. Them specifically, we didn't deal with a lot because they were also at the time a scrapyard, so they weren't a mill. But of course, my dad and his grandpa or
Yeah.
his dad did some business and stuff, so we kind of knew each other. But we wanted to keep it in the scrap business, if that makes sense. So we didn't
Yeah.
want to sell to a corporation or to a bunch of investors. We wanted
Okay.
to keep it a scrapyard
Okay.
purchased by a scrapyard, a scrap dealer. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We thought it was fair for the industry.
Yeah. And how did you have a pretty clear idea of what you wanted in terms of valuation, in terms of terms, nature of the deal? Like, I guess, how specific were you going into that process?
We went in very specifically. Now, we did do an asset sale. That was our best move for it. I mean, also the people buying us wanted to do an asset sale, but it actually made sense because we are an asset-based
Yep.
industry, and we found that we had more value in that space too.
Okay.
So, right or wrong, that's just what we did. Yeah.
Anything about in terms of the valuation you were expecting and structure in terms of like how much was going to be up front? Was there going to be earnouts? Was there going to be guaranteed payments? Like how did you kind of navigate and negotiate those things?
How did we navigate? So we just told them what we wanted, and it just seemed to work out.
You just dictated the terms and
Yeah.
they said yes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, honestly, we sold a really solid business, and they
Yeah.
knew it. So
Yeah.
they knew it was a great opportunity for them.
And I think that's a great point. Like if you've done your work and you've put together a solid business and you know
Yeah.
what the market wants, you kind of know what the valuations are, like you should be able to go out there and say, look, I want X, and people say, yep, X is fair. Like I'll give you X, and you should be able to.
Yeah.
I mean, the drama comes typically is where, you haven't made it clear, or it's really difficult for a buyer to assess the
Right.
value or assess the risk, or
That's right.
the projections are like, I don't know, like, yeah, that's what you think it's going to do. I think it's going to do Y, right? Like it's
Yeah.
all this kind of deltas. But if you can lay down a pretty clear plan
Yeah.
and show that, like, yes, there's a high level of confidence that you're going to be able to continue the business or reap the benefits that we've created in the business in the future, like it should be a much easier transaction. Anything with the due diligence process that was either particularly easy or particularly difficult?
It was pretty easy, the due diligence. I mean,
Yeah.
again, we had everything set up, and like they knew who we were operating. I would say, like, so to answer that question, no problems with the due diligence. But
Yeah.
I think another thing that helped us was we weren't desperate because we're still young.
Yeah.
So, we could
You could
pull
keep
it
it.
out and be like,
Yeah.
fine, then we won't sell. Because I mean, we could have reinvested and grown the business ourselves and, got other people from
Mm-hmm.
outside. We like to keep it private, but I mean, worst case scenario, that's what we did. Or just
Yeah.
get another scrapyard. So I think the fact that there was zero desperation coming from our side too
Yeah.
helped. Yeah,
Yeah. Not needing the deal is the best way to get
That's
the deal
right.
done. Yeah.
that's right.
And what was it? A clean cash transaction? I mean, were you involved in the company post sale, or did you have a pretty clean break in terms of your involvement?
I was involved for a little bit. So they did set it up in the sense that we had an earnout to do. It was tied to, it was more tied. They wanted both of us to be in the earnout. But I got myself off of that because I didn't think it was necessary to have both of us on it, and I didn't want to stay. I wanted.
You were ready.
I recognized there was a time when I was no longer passionate about it, and I knew it was time for me to get out of it. So I convinced them to keep my partner in that earnout,
Mm-hmm.
and I would just stay on. And they said, okay, well, we'll give you a year contract. And so I
Mm-hmm.
stayed on for that. I didn't make it. They fired me, which makes sense. I mean, I've heard that happens, right? I was
Oh
like,
yeah,
oh, I
not
was like,
atypical. Yeah,
so yeah, so they did. And I didn't get, that full year earnout, but hey, that's okay.
yeah,
I'm okay with that. So
is what it is.
yeah, and the company, we had a large lump sum of cash up front,
Uh-huh.
and then the rest of it was paid off over a term of 5 years,
Yeah.
connected to that earnout.
Okay.
And if he did quit, which he did,
Yeah.
he ended up quitting, we still got the money, but it was just not paid out in 5 years. It was paid out in 7.
Yeah.
So
So they basically extended the guarantee payments, based
exactly,
on
yeah.
you
Yeah.
or you got an accelerated payment for being involved in the company if that ended. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
And,
interesting. I've seen all these kind of crazy you know formulas for earnouts and bonuses and carry on equities and things like that, and yeah, it's interesting. You can come up with all sorts of really interesting deal structures based on
yeah,
what each party is trying to do and what they want to
that's right.
risk they're trying to offset and manage. So I get
Yeah,
it.
we just kept it simple. I mean,
Yeah.
it's simple. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I'm curious on reflection, right? Like what were the more kind of personal, emotional kind of challenges for you, or kind of experiential? Like how did it feel? Like what was it like to actually, take this company that had been in your family for a couple generations and that you've been involved with, and then actually going through the sale process, getting to the other side? Like how did that land for you in terms of, where you were kind of personally and professionally?
Right. I had a lot of guilt, but I did talk with my parents and I told them what was going on, and
Hmm.
I said, this is what's going to happen. Are you guys
Yeah.
okay with that? Like, do you understand
Yeah.
why and stuff? And they were like, oh my goodness, like finally, thank God, let's get it out. I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, not that it's a bad business. It is not
Yeah.
a bad business.
Yeah.
It's just rough. Like,
Yeah.
it's tough. Anyway, they saw it too, though, so they were pleased with it, and I think
Good.
that helped me a lot. But an interesting dynamic that I had there too was that I grew up in the business, and so
Yeah.
a few of the guys that were there had been there since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
So it was like deceiving family. I took it very personally,
Uh-huh.
and I struggled with myself on that. And yeah, I felt some shame, but I also knew that the people that we were selling to, we had talked, and they understood the importance of the scrap business and the people there and
Yeah.
the history and stuff. And I mean, it has changed. They have to do what they have to do. So it has
Yeah.
changed. Some have left, some have stayed, but it is what it is. And at the end of the day, I have a difficult time separating myself from business. So for
Yeah.
me to do that and for myself and not think about how it affects anyone else was really difficult. And then
Yeah.
also there was the dynamic of my business partner
Hmm.
was also my ex-husband. And
Yeah.
so we got divorced during when we bought the yard. It happened not long after we bought the yard.
Uh-huh.
So we had to manage that divorce and keep it quiet for, as long as we could so that our staff would be okay and,
Yeah.
they'd feel the security of the company still. Our customers,
Yeah.
customers had come in since I was a little kid. They were like family to me too. So I guess it was kind of like divorcing all of them. It kind of
Yeah.
felt bad. Like, yeah, it kind of felt
Yeah.
like that.
Well,
Yeah.
at least complicated. Like
Complicated,
a
very
lot of
complicated.
relationships, a lot of dynamics.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was interesting. Yeah.
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 And so you got to the other side, right?
Yes.
Sold the company, got out of your role, your active role in it,
Yeah.
or it still had some payouts, but you were free and clear professionally. I guess at that point, did you have a very clear idea of what you wanted to do next? Was this like, okay, great, now I can pursue this other business, this other dream, this is what I'm going to do? Or, I mean, I'm always curious. I always find that's a difficult moment for a lot of founders and CEOs of post-sale, right? It's like, okay, now what? Like,
Yeah.
where were you and how did you kind of figure that out?
Yeah. And then who am I too, right?
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
the one great thing with watching my parents go through it and retire is I saw how attached they were to the business, like their identities were attached to that. And it was really difficult for them to let go of that. They did end up transitioning beautifully. Like they ended up doing great things, and that's
Yeah.
awesome. But I did see that. So I made sure that I never really attached who I was to my role at the scrapyard. I never It's funny. I never really felt like an owner. I felt like one of the guys. I just kind of felt like we were all together. Maybe that's because I grew up in it too, and I was the
Yeah.
kid, so I was always just the kid, right? So
Yeah.
even though I'm a full-grown woman, I'm still just the kid in the business. So I never really attached myself to that. Not to mention that my true I'm such a nerd, not in the scrap business, but I am such a nerd in the health and wellness industry.
Ah,
So behind the scenes, I have always been studying health and wellness. So I'm certified nutritionist, hypnotherapist, yoga instructor, personal
okay.
trainer, and I think I said nutritionist. I'm
Yeah.
heart rate variability. I specialize in that. Just the function of the body, the health of the body. I always saw it as very important as a business owner. Your health reflects on everybody around you.
Absolutely.
And so my parents were also like, I just wanted to make sure they were healthy in doing what they were doing with all the stress they had and stuff. And so I've always just been that way. I grew up a dancer, so I think I've always been, physically active and into probably like just healthy
Do you
living.
think that really helped you? I mean, because I certainly know a lot of founder CEOs who don't have anything else going on. Like the business literally is everything about them. And so it's hard when they exit.
Yeah.
They really are left with them. And it sounds like you had another kind of thread of passion and interests and things that you wanted to accomplish outside of the business that became important for you as you finished the sale.
I think it's so important. But, even though I had that, I did have those moments where I was like, oh my God, I don't have a business. I don't have, the biggest thing for me was like a paycheck. I didn't have a paycheck. I mean, I was like,
burning through all this money that I just made.
I'm unemployed.
Yeah.
I don't even have a job. What's going on?
Well, and I'm probably unemployable too. Like that's the other thing I find about founders and CEOs.
But thank you for saying that. Okay, thank you. I was thinking about that the other day. So unemployable. Like no one would employ me. So if I want to do something, I have to create it. So.
Yeah.
But I did end up then reconnecting to the fact that, hey, actually, I've got this other thing that I absolutely love doing, and I can actually make something of it.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily that I'd even make it because I'm like, oh, I want to be like a super successful business person, but it's actually my give back. It's what I've always wanted to do. I've had customers come across the scale. I mean, you can imagine the people that came into the scrapyard. It definitely changed over time, but there were some people that just nothing was going right for them. And I always felt like they left feeling better when they left the yard because we were always so happy to see everyone. They were our customers. We were so grateful. And they were just blown away with the, like you're not, first of all, you're not insulting me. You're not yelling at me. You're not, so yeah, there's so much out there that people need as far as like just giving of your energy positive. So anyway, I came back around to it eventually.
Yeah. And so tell us about the new business. Like, what do you focus on today?
Yeah, so I focus on emotional resilience, and I tell you, I could sure use that throughout my career.
I could go back and coach myself in time.
Actually, when you say, is there something you regret or wish you had? I wish I had emotional resilience training at the beginning of my career. I think I would have made... Yeah, I just think it would have been an easier go on me and perhaps everyone around me at times. But anyway, my business now is called A Work of Heart, and I'm an advocate for lifestyle medicine. So I specialize in areas of lifestyle medicine. So it would be the fitness aspect of it. But my real specialization is in heart rate variability and emotional resiliency, because I feel like that influences every other aspect of lifestyle medicine. And once you can control that, yourself, your reactions, your emotions, it affects your physiology. You control your world, basically, like your own personal world. So
if you can manage your nervous system,
that's
right.
Right.
Then you manage life.
Right. Absolutely.
How you navigate the world.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's great. So we're at time here. Leslie, this has been a pleasure.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for sharing your story, for being on the program. If people want to find out more about you and more about what you're doing, what's the best way to get that information?
Sure. If they go to aworkofheart.ca, that's my website. I've got my emails on there and my phone number's on there. That's a great way to get into contact with me, or Leslie Adams in LinkedIn. Also, that's another great spot to get in touch with me. So, yeah.
Perfect.
Thank
I'll
you
make sure
so much
those
for
links
this
are in the show notes. But thank you so much for taking the time today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.